we have a revival of shamanism. There are so many people who love to know more about it, who find that it speaks to their heart because it's linked with the earth. And we want to go back to the earth. We want to go back to our essence. And we realize that we have a spiritual power, that we are spiritual beings. Therefore, we want to access this power and we want to heal ourselves.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Fotoula Adrimi, and we're going to be talking about shamanism. Fotoula is a spiritual teacher and co-founder of the ISIS School of Holistic Health. Her book, The Golden Book of Wisdom, Ancient Spirituality and Shamanism for Modern Times, is recognized as one of the best books on introductions to shamanism. We're going to be talking about what shamanism is, how she first became a shaman, how shamanism exists in modern times of technology and fast-paced living, and how we can heal in this modern world and work with nature and spirits of the ancient world to do so. We're also going to be talking about why shamans use sage and some of the ways she works with her clients to help them to overcome challenges. So let's jump in. This is Fotoula Adrimi. Good morning, Fotoula. And now I know you're in the afternoon because you're in Scotland, but here in Los Angeles, it's 8 a.m. And I'm so happy to start my day with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Bob. I'm delighted to be here. Absolutely delighted to be here.
I've never had anybody on to discuss, as part of what we're going to talk about, is shamanism. So I know that's, a big part of what you do. And we're going to talk about everything that you do. But let's start with that because I'm fascinated by the word. I'm fascinated by the idea of someone becoming a shaman. I always thought, now this is my sort of limited perspective, that it was something that was done in more like tribal kinds of things where there was a person that studied under another shaman and became the shaman of the group, and that it was very a closed system and you couldn't get in from the outside. And there's a primitive aspect to it. So that's all I know, and I basically heard about it through certain books that I read and more like Indian cultures, American Indian, South American Indian, but I know it's a worldwide thing. So educate me.
So what you said there is very correct. The original side of shamanism is what you describe, a very tribal setting, a very closed knowledge. That's how it was in my family lineage. So I come from Greece, and in the Greek mountains, in the Pelion Mountains, we had remnants of shamanism from ancient times that people practiced. But we didn't call it shamanism because that's not the Greek word. The word that we used is magia, which means magic, but it's not witchcraft. It's actually what we now describe as shamanism. It was very closed, held within the family structure, only passed from an elder to the firstborn male. That was in my family, was the firstborn male. I'll come to that, how I ended up with the knowledge. But it was exactly what you say. And the person used to do healings based on this ancient system. They used to be able to do divinations, read the bones, what is going to happen in the next 12 months, read the weather patterns in the stars, what is going to be the weather weather in the next 12 months, because it was an agricultural society. What kind of child will be born? That was before we had all these scans. The shamans would read that in the bones. What happens if somebody is cursed? How can you remove the curse? What happens if there's bad luck? And all of that stuff. These people used to do this. My great-grandfather used to practice that way. And in his village, there was also another person who used to do it from a different family. But the knowledge was very kept secret because it was so sacred. So nobody knew. And the shaman, the elder, will then train the next person. And now we have a revival of shamanism. There are so many people who love to know more about it, who find that it speaks to their heart because it's linked with the earth. And we want to go back to the earth. We want to go back to our essence. And we realize that we have a spiritual power, that we are spiritual beings. Therefore, we want to access this power and we want to heal ourselves. And shamanism makes so much sense. When we start to unravel it, we find, yes, we are multidimensional beings and we can travel and journey to different worlds. So people are really attracted to shamanism for different reasons. And there is so much thirst for this type of knowledge. So and this is not new. In the 1950s, 60s, 70s, people like Michael Harner went and studied with the indigenous people and brought it to America, brought it to the United States. Other people traveled to Peru. They traveled to find the indigenous teachers who would speak to them. They work with the Native Americans in some cases, or these teachers traveled to Europe. Like, for example, there were teachers from the Lakota tribe who came to Europe and they taught shamanism. But shamanism, if we go back to kind of a more academic definition of it, is the word comes from Siberia. But what happened was the academics, from the anthropologists, from the Sorbonne, from the institutions, the anthropological universities, went to Siberia, and they realized that this is a system of connecting with the spirits, and they called it shamanism. And then this word stayed. So then they found out that if you go to Peru, there are people practicing differently because they have different herbs, they have different deities, different spirits, but the principles are very similar. And I'm one person who loves to look at the similarities rather than the differences. There are other people that say, this is shamanism, just this, because this is different. You speak to a different spirit. Well, you do soul retrieval this way. But if you go to another culture, then there is also soul retrieval, but they do it slightly differently because they have different herbs, different stories, different spirits who come and speak to them. But a shaman, just to give a definition here for everybody, a shaman does two things that are important to have. Otherwise, we can talk about spiritualist mediums who are similar. People say, what is the difference? What makes somebody a shaman? So a shaman does two key things. One is a shaman is able to journey, to do this shamanic flight or journey to move the consciousness from this reality to another reality and be able to go there, sometimes like traveling through with their body and experiencing these different planes of existence, these parallel universes that we call them now. And what happens in these universes, the shaman finds the answer to a problem that the person has here on earth. So a person might say, I have all this bad luck. So what is going on? And you find out that there is, a spirit from another world that has taken part of this person, of this patient, if you like, and this person is tied there and cannot come back, so they cannot be whole, or there is something that they've done that they've lost their life force energy. They had a big shock and they lost their life force energy. And therefore, the life force energy is another world in the lower world, and you have to go and find it and bring it back. So the person does not have all these misfortunes. And again and again, as if they're being attacked by life, that nothing works. So this is one thing that the shaman does, the shamanic flight. And the second thing that is really important is that a shaman is able to merge with these helping spirits, these compassionate helping spirits who use the body of the shaman to do healing. So the shaman does not really use their own knowledge alone. It's this connection with these spirits who are sometimes lineage spirits that come from shaman to shaman. And that's why it's such a close society. You know, we have to be so careful to work with these spirits if you are going through the lineage. And they come and do the healing work for the shaman. Now, in a traditional society, you would have specific spirits, or that the grandparents or the elders, the older shamans worked, and they will tell you how you honor them, how you invoke them, what offerings you need to make, how they can come through your body, what they feel like when they come through your body. And in other cases, when there is no lineage, like now in the West, people find out that they can actually make contact with these compassionate helping spirits themselves, and they can have a spirit who is not lineage based. So, for example, they can have the wolf as a spirit animal who teaches them, or even if they're not, for example, from Siberia or Native American or Peruvian, they might have somebody, a spirit coming from this tradition, because the spirits see that there is such a thirst in this human heart for this person to evolve and learn and do healing work for their community. So they will come and they will support this person.
Whoa, wow. Okay. It's a lot.
I can speak a lot.
No, I know. I mean, it's a lot of information in a good way. When I think about, well, let me ask you a couple other things about this with my limited knowledge. Now, one of the things that you read about is, in order to access some of the world, let's just say the world of the spirit, that there is a certain amount of use of hallucinogenic drugs, natural ones, usually things like ayahuasca, peyote, psilocybin, these kinds of things. Is that part of what you do? Or I don't think that it is. This is what I'm getting.
No.
There's nothing like a shortcut.
There is nothing like a shortcut, and I don't use a crutch, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And when I teach people, I never use anything like that, because we all have this natural ability. What I have found in the past, it was very exclusive. Shamanism was very exclusive. People had this, sometimes a shamanic illness, sometimes they had, which is like, start seeing things and cannot make sense of it. And they would take them to a shaman and say, right, train now with this shaman. But nowadays, if somebody has all these visions, they might think, oh, I'm getting crazy, you know.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
So it's spirits we in the West work in a different way. So they support the person step by step, so they don't feel I have a breakdown most of the time. So I think that shamanism is something that we have inside, that is part of our human nature to work spiritually. And we can open up to that through the drum and through spiritual practice. We don't need anything else. And I've never used anything because the spirit said to me, actually a Peruvian shaman said to me, he was an ayahuasquero, and I respect the traditions. I respect whatever the indigenous people do, it's their tradition, and I honor it. It's not my way. But what he said to me, he said, the spirits work with you anyway. there is no need for you to take anything else, because they will not change the way they work with you. And you can already perceive nothing is going to change. I also worked in 2014. I went to Tibet and the Himalayas, and I have a very good friend and teacher who is a Himalayan shaman. And in his lineage is 27 generations of shamans. You can imagine how long that lineage is, uninterrupted lineage. And I was a bit concerned because I had read the book and said, oh yeah, Nepali shamans, Tibetan shamans, they use hallucinogenic drugs. And I was very concerned to go and work with him. He came to me in a vision. I had a vision from Shiva and said, go and find the shaman. So eventually found him. And I said, I'm really concerned about this. And he said, we never use anything in our tradition. I have worked with so many shamans. I went to Nepal many times. The Tibetan shamans, I have also worked with their families. And I asked the question, do you guys work with anything natural or not, or hallucinogenic? And they said, no, we never work with anything like that because we don't need it. It's inherent in us. And actually it's not allowed. And they said that if somebody is trying to do shamanism like that in their way, this is not right, because you open a door and you don't know what can come through the door. So I have now clients, people who come and contact me, and I had so many cases that I said, I'm not taking anymore because this is a lot of work, that people had a really bad experience, whether they went to Peru or they went, they had something here in the UK, they did some ceremonies, and some people went into a very dark place. They were not supported, and they were basically told, okay, you had a breakdown after taking these hallucinogenics, go and find somebody to help you integrate the process. But this person is so fragmented. Sometimes they were sectioned. They were put in a psychiatric hospital. They were so bad. And that's when the ceremony is not properly done, it's not supported. They open a door and there is no doorkeeper. And so anything can come through. If we do not know the basics about creating a sacred space, about making sure that we learn with somebody who can be a teacher and open the door for us in a safe way, then it's like having your, in your home, open the door and says, whoever wants to come in can come in. There could be a burglar who comes in. There could be, a person who is unskillful comes in. So you have to have some sort of basic knowledge of how to create a space that is safe for you, and then you can fly.
Okay. I like hearing this, because I always thought, well, maybe these I'll call them shortcuts again. Can be value. There's some value, and then there can be some value, but it'd be great to not need anything other than yourself. And when somebody comes to you with whatever issue there is, how do you work with them? I mean, I'm sure it's a little different for each person depending on what's going on. But let's say I'll just pick something that I'm not. I'm riddled with fear. I'm scared of the world. I'm scared of people. It's hard for me to, socialize. I'm thinking the worst thoughts all the time. And I say, Fotoula, you got to help me. I'm paralyzed by this issue. What would you suggest, or how would we start? What would happen?
So that's good, because you have already an intention that is strong, that says, right, I wish to ask for healing, to heal this fear state, this fear that I'm experiencing, and this is how I'm experiencing it. So what I would do is I would first try and see what is happening. What is the problem, the core of the problem? Where is this fear coming from? And in different people, there could be different causes that could be interlinked as well. So it could be that you had at some point a trauma or a difficult situation, and the part of you said, I don't want to be here. I find life so difficult. Maybe it was a situation that went on for years. For example, some people say, well, yes, you're right, because the spirit showed me what happened to a person. So maybe I could see that the person was bullied at school. And the spirit said, that went on for years. So the soul essence of the person said, right, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here. That leaves the person numb. So they can keep living, but there is no happiness. And there is a state of that I'm not whole. I feel something is missing from me. And then this fear of what happened to me is always there. Or it could be one shock, one big shock. Something happens, let's say you lose a loved one, and you say, after that time, I was never whole again. It was so big that part of you went with the person you loved so much, and that soul part left, and then you feel after that, I'm not whole anymore, and then maybe this fear starts. And when that happens, what can happen also is that we have intrusions. So intrusions are energies that are of the environment that maybe find their place in a person's body. So these can be extracted out of the body. And as we do this extraction, when these energies leave that do not belong with a person, then I can also do the soul retrieval work, where I go and bring back the soul part, persuade that part, whether this part is with a loved one in the spirit world, or whether it's stuck in time, in that early years of the person who was bullied at school, is stuck there in that time, never grew up from that time. So I can do the healing with my helping spirits and bring that back for the person. And also we can have spirit attachments. Now, spirit attachments can be next to us, so attached to Aurora, or sometimes even can be inside the person's body. And they are trying to stop the person evolving, because then they lose control. So a person sometimes can be suffering from unexplained anger. All of a sudden becomes so angry and loses themselves, or they can be very addicted to the point that they don't remember what happens to them. And if that goes on, is because the spirit is taking over, and the person's character completely changes during that time, and then they don't even have a memory what they did. I have seen over the 20 years that I've been practicing shamanism, so many different cases, and sometimes it's a spirit attachment. And when you remove that, the person says, I feel different. I feel like empty again, that there is like these intrusive thoughts that I had that were plaguing my mind, and I was feeling so ashamed about these thoughts. And this is so common. I have to say it's so common, because people feel so bad sometimes, saying, why do I have these thoughts? They just make me feel so bad that I'm thinking bad things about others. But they are not your thoughts, because you would not choose to think those thoughts. Sometimes it can be that there is a spirit attachment. So in those cases, we do the depossession work, and it's done the way I work is very compassionate for all beings, including the possessing spirit, because I think this spirit is lost. Even if the spirit is unskillful, it's really lost. So I'm helping this spirit too, that has somehow lost its way in our world and attached to a human being, to find themselves back in their own place where they belong, where they can go and heal. So that's how I work, and that brings more lasting results, because in some traditional shamanism, it's a culture really too. It was very much, let's kill this spirit, it's like a war zone. The shaman is like a warrior that goes there and clears and has a sword and all this, and the spirits can do this. But for me, somehow it never really resonated that way. So I love the way that I had the right teachers who showed me this compassionate depossession way that I find has more lasting results than the fight, than the war.
Interesting to me that you practice compassion toward the thing that's the problem. Also, that's some. I can see why you would do that, because you're saying that spirit that's creating these problems for somebody else are lost entities themselves. How do you access this? I mean, this is the secrets of things, but how do you access that part of yourself? I mean, you're probably not in a constant state of tuned into these certain things. There must be some type of, I'll just say, meditation or action. I mean, you mentioned drums, so vibration obviously is a big part of tapping into what this is. I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about because you can't really hold it in your hand and pick it up and turn it around and look at it. And that way, it's in another type of realm. So, can you talk a little bit about, maybe how you started to be able to access these gifts?
So somebody is asking, I'm interested in shamanism. I would like to learn how to journey. So the way to do that is for people to go and find somebody who can teach them, because I really would love for people to have an experience of what is the shamanic space. But basically what happens in that time, we cleanse with some sort of herb. So I can use white sage or mugwort. The idea is that you release the energies of the world. So if you have intrusive thoughts, if you have things in your mind that you picked up from somebody having a conversation with you and you can't switch it off, you go through a cleansing process so you become you. So now it's just you. The rest of the world is not here. You bring yourself here. And then you open your sacred space with an invocation to say to the spirits of the light, who are totally and wholly for the light, and they ask nothing from you. They are compassionate, transcendent beings that I wish to journey. I wish to connect with you. I wish to feel this connection. And then you basically can play a drumming track, something that is repetitive. This repetition of the drum will kind of harmonize your brain waves. So you'll start to focusing on that, and your mind becomes quiet. Even though the drum is so loud, somehow your mind becomes quiet. And then you start to basically perceive. Now, you start to, first of all, maybe perceive the energy. Some people have vision straight away. That happened to me. I just had, my first shamanic journey. I could see everything. I met my guides, my spirit guides, everything. So you start to perceive, the energies coming around you. You start to feel, notice everything. Maybe there is a breeze around your face. Maybe you feel this like energy, like a heaviness, almost like a vibration around you. Maybe you start to see colors. Maybe you smell something that is not in the room. Yesterday I was like, all of a sudden was smelling coffee. There was nothing there. There was no coffee there. It was such a smell. I said, okay, thank you for letting me know you're here with me. And then you can sometimes have visions. They may come in the beginning, or maybe have to do a little bit more work before they start. You start to see your spirit guide. This is what is your intention. First intention, may I find my spirit guide, is a great intention. And then you can start to maybe have an image of what is this spirit guide feels like or looks like to you. Although they are just energy, they take a form that we can recognize. Sometimes it's an animal form, sometimes it's a plant form, sometimes it's a crystal, sometimes it's a mythical animal that does not exist. But this will be coming to you, and notice the feeling. How do you feel? Because when you get in touch with a spirit guide, you should feel this energy, this like euphoria, or there is a definition of shamanism called ecstasy without drugs. You feel this euphoria, you feel this good feeling. It makes you happy because the spirits are holding such a beautiful light, and you are immersed in that light. So then you can have a conversation. Then you can ask questions to the spirit saying, I wish to evolve. I wish to practice this work. I'm having this problem in my life. What do you suggest? And I had a situation where a family member who is a child, he was very interested. He's very interested in this. Now he sees me doing it, and he says, can you bring your drum, and can you help me find some protection? I don't feel protected in school. There is all this, difficulty, all this bullying going on. Although he's not involved in that, somehow he feels it's not safe. And it's such a pity for children that they don't feel safe at school, but sometimes it happens. So we connected to the spirit animal, and it's so easy to do that. And he got the name, he got the, what the spirit animal was straight away. And I thought, this is so easy for a child because it's something so natural.
Did it change the situation for him at school?
Yes, because I said to him, right, now before you go, you can ask your spirit animal to be there with you, walking with you. And that gives you strength. And then also the spirit animal makes sure that you are not, attacked by anybody, because it's the spirit animal is there. And even though nobody can see it, intuitively, people realize that there is a big power there with you. And it definitely worked. And I said, you have to keep talking to your spirit animal and just follow the advice that you get. And he did, and it's so sweet. It's so sweet because when you work with children, you find there is such goodness in human nature. And when you look at the world around you, you think, what are we human beings doing? But it's so beautiful when you work with children. And he felt so much supported, and had almost like a spring in his step, and he didn't feel threatened anymore.
Yeah, it is sort of fascinating when you have, let's say, somebody who's a bully, why they pick certain people to bully. And why other people, they have no interest in doing that, even though they could probably get away with it. Like the person physically maybe couldn't defend themselves in that sort of conventional way that, it's like, well, you're going to bully me, I'm going to, punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Maybe there's two people that just don't have the size or the energy to do that. But why is the bully picking one and not the other? There's an energy that's different.
There is a really beautiful ceremony that can help people who feel that, maybe not at school, but maybe in the workplace, that there are bullies there too. Or maybe even in a family situation. And there is a great ceremony that we can do in shamanism that's called the cord cutting. And when you cut the cords with everybody, and you come back to your essence. So there's a process that we do this that say, okay, I cut the cords with everybody. Now I'm only in my own energy. That's just me. And invite source, the creator, whatever name you have, the divine, whatever name resonates with you, in this greater power, the infinite, to be with you in that place. And people find it really hard sometimes to do, because they say, oh, if I cut the cords with my partner, will this partner find it difficult? And I said, you just cut the cords. When you come out of that space of that ceremony, if you wish, this cords can reattach, but stay in your own energy. And that has really helped so many people, this cord cutting ceremony, who had experienced bullying. And even, teenagers, it's so bad sometimes. And what I found is that is people who are really gifted. Sometimes the bullies are attacking people who are really gifted, that they have something that is special, that maybe they don't feel they have, or they want to push them down. And it's such a shame when that happens, when the person feels it's dangerous for me to show my skills and my abilities and my light.
There's a tendency, if you're to get smaller and not be seen when you have people judging you that way, or usually it's jealousy of some type, like you just mentioned. It is a sort of a tricky thing, I think, for some people to be authentic and not shrink and still deal with, energy that's coming at them that's negative. And that's inevitable. If you're going to be really good at something, or, expansive in some way, you're going to have detractors. It's going to happen. It's just the way that the world works. And how do you balance that? And how do you move through the world and not let those people stop you? Good skill to have. And I think it takes some time and some discipline and experience and experimentation in order to pull that off.
Yes, absolutely. And in shamanism, when we do the cord cutting work, is really important. We also have ceremonies of protection. And in those cases, we see that the person who is causing the problem, even though, as you said, it's really unskillful and it causes difficulties and sadness for us, is really a teacher, a harsh teacher that enables us to grow. Because, I had a situation recently in the place where I have been doing a lot of my work, and we had a situation with somebody who was so unskillful. He was misogynist. He was trying to take over, and actually what happened was that brought so much compassion, but also so much growth. And so I've done so many ceremonies of protection, and every time I did it, I grew so much from it. So sometimes these harsh teachers appear in life, but it can be very difficult. And shamanism gives us a way to say, okay, see the bigger picture and not get stuck into it. It's called the path of the eagle. So in the path of the eagle, you nurture yourself first. So you have to look after yourself. If you're going through a hard time, you have to say, okay, I'm going through a hard time. I really need to support myself, nurture myself, ask for help from others, saying, please help me right now. And then try to rise above the situation like the eagle and see the bigger picture. What is going on? Don't get stuck in the drama that, oh, this is so bad. This person is such and such. They're hurting me. They're a bad person. No, rise above, see the bigger picture. And then when you get the answer, when it's right there for you and say, right, this is the right way, you dive like the eagle and dive, and you don't question yourself or pull yourself back. You dive down there and you do the work and you follow that path, because life opened for you a door and you go through that door.
Well, I love the expression, a harsh teacher, of how to move through the world rather than I got to avoid this terrible person. I guess the question is, what can I learn from this situation, no matter what it is, even when it's just seems to be awful? How do you work with people, like you were talking about intrusive thoughts, which I think we all have them at different times? Because I know for myself, when I'm agitated in some way, it's because I'm thinking about something that's makes me agitated, and I'm like, I don't want to think this, and sometimes they become repetitive, and they'll almost like attach to you in a way, and just sort of it almost feels like they're waiting on your shoulder for when you're in a certain place, and they start poking you, these thoughts. It drives me crazy when it does happen. It's not something that's a big part of my life, but when it happens, I just feel like I want to scream. That's the feeling. It's like, go away, even though I'm thinking these things. It's not something even, feels like it's coming from the outside, even though I know it isn't.
When we look at the planet right now, we see this big psychic soup because our thoughts have energy. So we are all in this psychic soup of many thoughts that, in the indigenous way, in the shamanic way, we are, if we have a thought that is like a difficult thought, let's say going, I don't like this person. It's a terrible, you've done this to me, whatever we're doing. Then I take that back in and transmute it. It's my job to do that. I remember one time I had a big thing with my mother going on, and like we all did. And my helping spirit came and said, look at the energy you're sending to your mom. This you are a powerful person. This can create illness for your mom. Please don't do that. I'm going, bring it all back and transmute it. Do a ceremony to transmute it and release it and heal it. No matter what, whether you're right, wrong, it doesn't matter. The energy is there. But in this psychic soup, there are so many thoughts that can become thought forms the more we energize them, and then they can get attached to us, what you describe. And then we have to, what we do there is we go into our body. Where is it in my body? Where do I feel these thoughts? Where do I feel them? And I work with that and just say, look at what is the energy looks like in there. Is this a thought form? And I have a conversation with this thought form, because now the thought form has developed almost like as a being in itself. It doesn't have a soul because it's just thoughts, but it's almost like appears in some way. And then I do the work that I can take this thought form to leave. I can get it to leave the person, and then I can help it, release back into energy. There is also from the ancient Greece a way where we work with the spirit of the lower realm, but it's not bad. The lower realm is just more the power of the earth. The underworld spirit is the goddess Hecate or Hecate, and she is very powerful, and she comes and takes this thought form away and releases it into her big cauldron, and in that place, this energy completely becomes back into energy. So there are ways that we do that. But if it's a problem, when you think, okay, I have this thought form, the easiest thing is purification with a cleansing spirit. So you start, you do a little ceremony, and you take some, given you are in the States, you take some sage, you light the sage, and you talk to the spirit of this plant. And you say, okay, sacred sister, plant sister, because everything has a spirit. You have the spirit, the power of purification. I come to you. Please cleanse all the thoughts that are not mine. Please take these energies of the world away from me. I breathe your spirit into my body. Please cleanse my body. Please open me up into my own essence, into my own spirit. And let this go from me now. And you breathe in the smoke, and you can just take it around your body and just cleanse that way. That is a simple way. The other thing you can do is, if you have a strong tree where you live that you can make friends with, because everything has a spirit. The trees have a spirit, and you go to a strong tree and say, can you help me, brother, cedar or whatever tree. You have a really good tall tree who says, yes, I can help you. Please sit here. And you just connect with the tree. Either you put your hands on the tree and say, may the life force energy of the earth bring me back to myself. And you will feel, the more you do it, the more you will feel what is called the web of light the life force energy is not just of the earth, it's of the cosmos. It's flowing everywhere. And you will feel that rejuvenating you and strengthening you and releasing those things that are not yours. And then you make a little thank you to the tree, maybe pour some water, offer, if you, of course you're in the States, so you can offer a little bit of tobacco to the tree and say thank you so much, or give the tree a hug.
So when I moved into the house that I still live in, this was 30 years ago, there was a bedroom at the back of the house that had a really disturbed feeling when you would go into it. I'm in that room now, actually. That's where my office is now. And every time we would go into the room, my wife and I, and it was like something's strange in this room. So we got sage and we burned the sage in the room and around, outside the door and everything. And kept asking this energy to leave. It's like, you're not going to be here anymore. It's time to move on. And we had to do it a few times. When it wasn't just one time, but it got less and less, and eventually it went away. And then we found out sometime later that somebody had been, I guess they were shot in the room. There was some kind of violence that went on in this bedroom. And so it's like, well, do I believe that energy, remained in the room? Well, I kind of do, just based on what happened. And so, I've always been intrigued with these things that on the surface maybe don't logically make sense. How is that possible? Well, I don't know how it's possible, but I know what happened. And so we've used sage a lot. If we have people that come over and there's like not a great feeling once they've left, I'll walk through the house with sage burning. And so I don't know why sage is the plant, but it certainly has worked for me. And can I explain it? Does it make sense? Maybe there's a scientific reason. I don't really, honestly, I don't care. I'm on the side of what works. And so that happened to work. And maybe people might think I'm strange, or that's weird, or that's all in your mind. Well, even if it is all in my mind, it's not my mind now.
Yeah, that's great, Bob. And there you got the result as well. So there was, some residual energy from what happened, all these thoughts, all the pain from that death, that violence, and you cleared that energy with the sage. And as you said, sometimes it has to be done more than once, especially something like that. It's not like a simple thing, it's a really violent thing. So you had to go a few times, but you were noticing, yes, it's going less and less. Mm-hmm. So that's a great result. And sometimes what can happen, just in case people feel, well, I did the sage and it became worse rather than better.
Oh.
Now I feel this energy so much there, and I feel this energy is attacking me. In those cases, in you, it didn't happen. It was great. But, because there was the spirit of the person who got sought could have been there. In those cases, people will say, well, I've done the sage, but actually feels worse, because that spirit is now seen what you've done, that you are trying to say, go away from here. You're not welcome here. This place belongs now to Mother Earth, of course, but I'm occupying it now. Yeah. Get out of here. So this spirit might feel, well, I have nowhere to go, and you're not going to push me out, sage or not. So in those cases, people need to find a shamanic practitioner who knows what they're doing, because there are a lot of people who say, okay, I'll just come there, burn some sage, and it gets worse. Somebody who knows how to do the depossession work, who can help the spirit move to the spirit world where it should be instead of hanging about. So just to say that for people who maybe tried the sage and said, that was worse afterwards, that there could be a spirit who is attached to a place after a violent event, but it didn't happen to you. So there's nothing like that.
Yeah. Pretty amazing options in the world that aren't, certainly I was raised in a Western culture in the United States, so I have a limited viewpoint that is in the culture here. Now obviously I'm somebody that's expanded that beyond what's on schools and media and all that. I'm somebody that is interested and intrigued by these other things, or I wouldn't even be doing this podcast. So there are those choices that are outside of the realm of what your culture may be telling you. We're all limited by what we are willing to take a look at, and it's an interesting choice that some people are able to make and look outside of that, and then other folks are very rigid and they won't look outside of it, and so they have those limitations. And the thing that I think gets people in the second category to maybe open up is some kind of pain or desperation. It's like the things I've been taught aren't working. What else is there? I'm desperate. And I think that is kind of it's a gift when that happens. It doesn't feel like it when it's happening, but if that is the case, I'll do anything not to feel the way I feel right now, or the way I felt for maybe years.
Yeah, sometimes that's the pathway. Sometimes illness, or when things are not working, and saying, well, have you thought of that? Sometimes that is a door for people. And other times, for me, it was by accident, I have to say. So I ended up going to a shamanic event because a friend of mine was going, and my friend Joe said, do you want to come? It's a 2-hour sort of event on shamanic journeying. And I said, what is shamanism? And she said, well, it's some Native American people coming and playing some drums. There wasn't a Native American person there, but it was somebody from Scotland. But he didn't have even a drum. It was on a CD.
Oh wow!
But
okay.
yeah, and I was just thinking, everybody here is crazy. So we were there. We're told, okay, imagine there is a fire in the middle of the room, and just go around the fire. Just keep moving your body around the fire. Get out of the mind. Somebody gave me a rattle and said, just been to Peru. You can have this rattle. Just rattle around. And I just saw my friend moving. I thought, okay, I'll just follow her. It was her first time as well. I didn't know that. I thought, okay, she might know what is happening here. So I just went around, just rattling away. And then the guy said, just lie down now on the floor, close your eyes and see what happens. And I closed my eyes, and there was a spirit guide right there in front of me. And he took me into his tent, and he told me about studying shamanism, and that was my path, the path of my ancestors, and said, you have to do it. And he showed me my life would change. And then I found there was a shamanic group near where I lived, and I went there a couple of times. And then I found the people that I could train with, and eventually came to America to people who had been doing it for many, many years. Then I found the Himalayan shaman. So spirit was kind of putting me in the right places at the right time. And now I'm working also with a Siberian trained shaman. So and doing exchanges. I'm working with my own tradition, and I find that there is such richness. So for some people, I don't know, it's meant to happen. My experience was that there was nothing bad in my life. It was just meant to happen.
Yeah.
and I feel there is a calling sometimes in our heart. And that was what happened to me. There was just this thirst that said, this is what, would really sustain you. This is what you're meant to do. And it was not easy to do. My life changed completely. And I have experienced many changes of life, of my life circumstances. So I used to do town planning, used to be a town planner. I had to give that up because shamanism was like, this is what you're meant to do. And I did that, but lots of difficult choices. And what we say in shamanism is, when you step onto this path, sometimes if you're meant to follow it, a dismemberment happens. So a dismemberment is like imagine like your whole body melts away, or you're going back to the skeleton and the new you is being rebuilt. So your life is the same, your life dismembers too. And then there is the rememberment in a different way. And that is sometimes a big part of the shamanic path.
It's interesting when people talk about things, a memory might come up, at least for me, like when I was listening to you just now. When I was a teenager, which is, I think, a very strong time when you're trying to figure it all out in a way that's pretty intense. At least it was for me. And I think that's the age, this becoming your own person and leaving your childhood behind and trying to figure out what the world's about and where you might or might not fit in. And I had this friend who lived across the street, and he was at my house. I said, I feel like I'm going crazy. And he started laughing, and he goes, well, why don't you? What's stopping you? And I was like, you know what? He's right. I wasn't like institutional crazy. It was, I can't take the status quo of the way things are and the expectations and all the things that were sort of happening around me. And I actually, that was a moment that I still remember. He gave me permission to not be this character that I was playing in the world that I was, told to be or taught to be. And I'm not saying there was a huge change instantaneously and forever. Of course, it takes a while but it was the first time I got permission to be something, I'm going to say something more. And I was ready to hear it. I was in a place of, because there is that, you were talking about that thirst, and there's an agitation to just being a person, a human being, because of that desire to find out and experience something greater. I'm not talking about material things or anything, something internally greater. And so that's, I think that's like, I used to think of it as I wish that feeling would go away rather than, because it was agitating. And a lot of times it's like whatever is being offered to me in the world or my choices doesn't feel like enough. It's like, it's like, it doesn't, it feels unsatisfying. So that agitation to find something or to become something that is satisfying is an energetic drive. And you said it was a thirst, which I think is a good word for that. Do you know what I'm talking about? Of course you do.
In my mind at the time, it was something that really drove me. And I feel that what happened to me was that all this spiritual energy from my soul, that my soul really wanted this, that this is the thing for me. I've been waiting these years that I lived until that point, a very conventional life. Yeah. It's almost like that they're just preparation for this is my path. And I was so certain about it. And my mother asked me, said, okay, you followed this path. What do you have to show for yourself? Because he's thinking in material terms. Do you have to show that you have the big bank account or anything like that? And I said, I have to show me. This is me, because I feel that I'm in my body, I'm in my bones. I feel I am accessing my spirit. I feel my radiance, and I feel that I'm doing something that is very much in line with my soul. I'm not trying to be somebody else. Even though town planning, I did enjoy it, and I was in the environmental side, so I was trying to create beautiful places for people and communities. It was good work, but it was not really what was inside of me. And now I'm very grateful to life, because life brought me to this point where I could follow the steps of my soul. And I think shamanism does that, even if people say, I'm not really interested in becoming a shamanic practitioner. But what the shamanic education, if you like, should give you is a path of transformation. And people come to my courses when I teach the shamanic practitioner course, and maybe one or two will say, yes, I'm here to practice as a therapist. But a lot of people love to come and come back again, do the same course again, because they say the transformation from this contact with my spirit, from working through these ancient ways, is really incredible. Because shamanism does work fast, because you get in touch with your soul. It's the soul essence that makes the difference. And the spirits take you there, but they walk beside you for you to find your own spirit. And our spirit is so powerful. Actually, this is what the shamans say. What is the cause of all illness? They say the cause of all illness, any illness that we experience, they say it's only one illness, really. It's not, it might manifest in different ways for different people. Somebody has, a knee problem, somebody has a hip problem, somebody have a lung problem, all these different illnesses. Somebody have mental problems, somebody has an emotional problem. It's the same illness. And they say it's the disconnection from our spirit. Because if we were connected to the infinite part that we are, we have the ability to heal everything, including the environment. That's what the shamans believe and do, and trust in it. But to get there, to shed all the layers of this psychic soup that has been with us for so long, and with our ancestors of this conditioned world, to get there is a big journey. But we are on the journey. If we are having a spiritual awareness, if we are seeking the greater, we are on the journey.
Well, before we go, why don't you talk about how people can contact you and what may be available on your website, and we can lay that out there for folks to explore more.
Yes, thank you, Bob. So first thing, if somebody would like to find out more about shamanism and a way of life based on shamanic principles, how to shed skin, how to become more aware of soul retrieval, illness, death, and soul purpose, incarnation, reincarnation, and places of power, I think my book is quite a good place to go. So that's called The Golden Book of Wisdom, Ancient Spirituality and Shamanism for Modern Times, and it's available everywhere where books are sold. And then on my website, you will find there are courses that are pre-recorded that you can do at your own pace. There are the online circles where we come and I share a shamanic ceremony once a month. There are the courses in person for those of you who are in Scotland, and there are courses who are live as well. So there's so much I can share with you and I can teach you. Also, subscribe to my newsletter. There's iceschoolofholistic.health.com is the website, and there's a subscribe button, because every month we are sending out a newsletter that has articles on shamanism, that has channelings from my compassionate helping spirit, which is my other side of work, which is the ancient Egyptian mysteries. That is a whole new discussion, and there's a second book on that as well for those who are interested.
Okay.
Called Sacred Mysticism of Egypt, the ancient path of Heka initiation for those of you who feel that calling. And also I do energy transmissions once a week that are free, and you can ask to take part. And that's all there on the website.
Say the name of the website again.
So it's all one word, and it's the ISIS School of Holistic Health.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
ISIS School of Holistic Health. ISIS. Well, I want to thank you again for being such a wonderful guest and a wonderful time and experience that I've had today. Just love talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much too, dear Bob. And I loved our conversation. Thank you for all the beautiful time and all the questions. I absolutely love the energy and the beautiful light that was with us. And thank you to everybody listening. Infinite blessings to us all. Thank you so much.
Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. You can also listen on YouTube. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank Fotoula Adrimi for being on the show. If you want to find out more, check out the ISIS School of Holistic Health.com. Thank you.